Chapter 7. Min was far more irritable than usual after the emissary's visit. Instead of giving gruff, terse commands, he harangued Trier at every opportunity. Then he would lapse into a sullen silence that lasted until his next bout of shouting. Trier worked harder than ever, tense with anticipation. Min was making vases in the melon shape that had so pleased the emissary. It seemed to Trier that the potter had never before rejected so many pieces that came off the wheel. All day long, to the tune of Min's curses, he heard the sound of clay being slapped down in disgust. At last, after 2 days of abuse, Min asked the question Trier had been waiting for. "So," Min said grumpily, "would you be telling me about it, or must I guess?" Min was the only potter who had not visited King's display that day. Whether genuine or feigned, his concentration on his own work had never wavered, but Trier knew he could not have failed to notice the gathering of people, the air that ruffled with interest around King's stall. "Inlay work," Trier responded once. Ringman's words echoed in his mind. "The idea belongs to the world." He continued. "White and red slip that fires to white and black in the finish. Chrysanthemums." Min did not reply, so Trier added, "Ugly ones." For what Trier guessed was the first time in Min's whole life, the potter threw back his head in a loud guffaw of laughter. "Ha!" he spat out and choked to clear his throat. He looked at Trier with what might have almost been affection. "Ugly ones, you say? Of course. What else could King do, that bumble-fingered excuse for a potter?" Suddenly, he clapped his hands once and snapped, "Go then. White and red clay drained as for glaze." Trier jumped to his feet. Almost before Min had finished speaking, he was flying down the road with the cart careering crazily before him. Days before, Trier had mapped out the best places along the river for coloured clay, and now he went directly to the first spot. He dug and loaded, his excitement kept in check by the rhythm of the work. The spade had never felt so light as it did that day. Over the next several days, Min sketched what seemed like hundreds of designs. His wife helped by drawing the basic melon shape over and over in charcoal on pieces of wood. Min would add his ideas for the inlay design, reject them angrily, and hand the wood back to her to be wiped and reused. Meanwhile, Trier was busy draining the clay. Twice, 3 times, 4, and the 5th time with the white clay, something happened. Trier was rubbing the sediment between his fingers, as he always did. Suddenly, his fingertips tingled with a strange feeling. For some odd reason, he thought of a time when he had been on the mountainside taking a break as he chopped wood. He had been staring into the forest greenery when a deer appeared in abrupt focus. It had been there all along, and he had been looking straight at it. But only at the last moment had he actually seen it. It was the same now, only instead of seeing with his eyes, he was feeling with his hands. The clay felt good, fine, pliant, smooth, but not ready yet. Trier froze, completely still except for the tips of his fingers and the clay. What was it that made him think so? His mind could not find the right words. The clay had long since lost any feeling of roughness, but somehow he knew. One more draining, perhaps 2. It was like suddenly seeing the deer, a clear vision emerging from a cloudy dream. And it was as if he woke from that dream as he drained the clay yet again. A dream in which the words to describe exactly how he knew about the clay would be held secret forever. Having finally selected a design, Min began incising it. This was the most detailed part of the work, and he disliked anyone watching. As Trier swept the yard or brought clay to and from the draining site, he tried to catch what glimpses he could. It was always so when Min was incising. Now that Trier knew well every aspect of Min's work, he loved seeing the incision work emerge even more than he had once loved watching the vessels grow on the wheel. He used sharp tools with points of various sizes. The outline of the design was first etched lightly into the leather-hard clay with the finest point. Then Min would carve out the design a bit at a time. Unlike other potters who traced a complete pattern with their initial incisions, Min sometimes varied from the sketchy tracing. His work seemed to flow more freely both in the making and in the final result. The glaze would collect in the crevices of the design, making it slightly darker than the rest of the surface. Once the piece was fired, the pattern would be so subtle as to be almost invisible some kinds of light. Min's incision work was meant to provide a second layer of interest, another pleasure for the eye, without detracting in the least from the grace of shape and wonder of colour that were a piece's first claims to beauty. Min was inscribing lotus blossoms and peonies between the ribbed lines of one of the melon vases. At the end of each day, Trier always tried to check Min's shelves to see what progress had been made. Because Min was now attempting inlay work rather than merely incision, some of the petal and leaf spaces were carved out into little depressions. But Trier could already see how much finer and more detailed Min's work was than Keng's. The blossoms had many more petals, each beautifully shaped, the stems and leaves twined and feathered as if alive. Trier exulted silently over his master's work. He could hardly wait to see the pieces after they were fired. Surely the emissary would see that Min's work could both honour tradition and welcome the new in a way that was worthy of a commission. Min came to the draining site after a few days to check on Trier's work. Because only small amounts were needed, Trier was working with the red and white clay in bowls instead of in the pits. Min closed his eyes as he touched his fingertips to the contents of one bowl. After a brief instant, he opened his eyes and sniffed. "It took long enough," he said dismissively. He walked back to the house, carrying both bowls. Trier pressed his lips together so as not to grin too widely at the potter's departed bag. It was the first time he had prepared the clay to such a fine finish without further prompting from Min. Min made 5 replicas of the melon-shaped vase. To inscribe the design and then inlay each part of it with the coloured slip was the work of countless hours, and Trier remained at the house until well after dark to assist Min however he could. After a vase had been inscribed and inlaid, Min removed every bit of excess slip. Finally the vases were dipped in glaze. Never had Trier taken such care over the draining, and Min himself had done the final drainings and mixing with the glaze. Min was like a man with a demon inside him. He ate little, slept less, and whether he worked by daylight or lamplight, his eyes always seemed to glitter with ferocity. Trier felt that the very air in the workspace under the eaves was alive with whispers and hisses of anxiety. The emissary would be returning very soon. At last the day came when they would load the vases into the kiln. Each vase was placed carefully on 3 seashells set in a triangle atop one of the clay shelves, in a position near the middle of the kiln where Min determined it would fire best. Then the wood was precisely arranged in a complicated crisscross pattern of many layers. The kindling of twigs and pine needles was lit with a spark from a flint stone, and when the fire was well on its way, the door of the kiln was sealed.